Ahoy there, chummers. Welcome to a new episode of Shadow Talk, the show where we just kind of sit around and talk about all things to do with Shadowrun and the Sixth World. Now, today's question is one that I think is going to be an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see the answers that some of you folks out there come up with. So I'm just going to lead off with the question, but what I want to know today is, what is your most memorable Shadowrun tabletop moment? I'm not talking, moments in Shadowrun books or something like that, because we all have our favorite Shadowrun fiction moments. We all have our favorite moments in source books and that sort of thing. I am talking about, what is your favorite moment on the tabletop, in game, while you're playing, whether you're GMing a game of Shadowrun or whether you're actually playing as a player. Lucky you, I almost never get to play as a player because I am the perpetual Shadowrun DM in my group. But what are some of your favorite RPG moments that you've had within this game? I can tell you one of my favorite moments. It's actually something that happened in high school with probably one of the most epic games I've ever run, which is kind of sad that I sort of kind of peaked in my RPG career that early, but no, I've had memorable games since then. But few games have a moment such as this one, where it has literally been talked about by my group since high school. So almost 30 years now, we still refer back to this moment, and we refer back to it with a mixture of, man, that was awesome, combined with, oh my god, what the hell were you thinking? So the adventure itself, the runners had been hired by a rich corporate Johnson to basically protect a family that was being threatened by a gang of vampires. I don't remember the reason why, but they actually, the head vampire lord, I think this was when I was also going through a Vampire the Masquerade phase a little bit too. I don't know where I came up with this, but basically what had happened is the vampire lord had sent a group of goblins to kidnap one of the kids, essentially. And this led to a firefight in the mansion. They ended up being able to grab the kid, and they bolted. And this led to a pretty epic chase through the city, and they ended up diving into a subway tunnel, down into a sewer drain, and they landed on top of a subway train, because in my 16-year-old mind, that's how subways worked. And sewer systems worked, and I thought it would be a really cool visual. So there's this gang of goblins, and the runners are chasing them. They're on top of this subway train. They're fighting. They're working their way through the goblins, tossing them off the subway train. And then one of the goblins manages to kind of get away from the party, get away from the melee a little bit. And I had him, because I thought this would be a really cool moment. But what I did is I basically had him kind of brace himself in between two cars, one foot on one car, one foot on another car, so he's like standing in between them. And then I, totally straight face, I go, all right, so you see him bracing himself, and all of a sudden he just pulls this Panther assault cannon right out, and right there was like a record scratch moment. It was like, everybody was like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, he pulls out this Panther assault cannon and he just starts blasting. And everybody's like, where the hell did he keep it? And I'm like, his pocket. He pulled it out of his pocket. And again, 16-year-old me thought this was a very cool moment, and I was not going to let my players ruin this moment for me. And they were just like, what the fuck is he pulling this out of his pocket for? So anyway, there's a little bit of an argument, but they let it stand, because it was kind of a cool visual for the players. And he ends up getting a lucky shot on one of the runners, and rather than having the runner go down, because it immediately caused a deadly wound, and the runner was dead, essentially. I let him burn karma in order to survive and keep fighting, but he was basically like, one more hit and he was dead. It was that bad. Basically shot him in the shoulder, kind of almost blew off the arm. It was a pretty nasty hit, and it's probably Probably, I think it's one of the few times my players back in high school came pretty close to certain death. So, anyway, he's a street samurai. He manages to close into combat with this goblin. He fights this goblin a bit, almost kills it. Then the goblin decides that, well, he's just going to chuck the kid off the train and escape as the runner dives for him. So I end up, he kid gets chucked off the train, and the runner is like, well, I grab the kid, dive after him. I'm like, okay, yeah, go ahead and make a roll. And I gave him modifiers because of his injury and that sort of thing. And he ended up rolling all sixes, and he rolled again all six. He just kept getting sixes and ended up getting a very, very high success on a pretty epic roll. So I basically ruled that, okay, so he grabs you manage to dive off the subway after the kid. You grab him with one arm, but your ruined arm, your arm that's been shot by this Panther assault cannon, that grabs onto the subway, like the roof of the subway train, but it ends up basically ripping his arm off, but his momentum carried him into the subway car with the kid, which, again, 16-year-old me thought this was really cool. So they end up saving the kid from these goblins, and the player finally passes out after the kid's safe, and the Johnson ended up giving him a brand new cyber arm, for thanks for saving his son. So it's probably one of my more memorable moments. And again, this is something that we refer to over and over and over again, and we keep coming back to it, mainly because it was, number one, it was a cool moment, but number two, it was just so freaking ridiculous with the goblin pulling an assault cannon literally out of his pocket. And since then, whenever I use goblins in Shadowrun, I have at least one goblin pulling an assault cannon out of his pocket as an homage to that moment. So anyway, I'm going to throw this back over to you guys. Let me know what your most memorable moments are in the Shadowrun tabletop game, whether it's as a game master or as a player, and who knows, maybe the best ones, the best written ones, I will do a follow-up video on and read some of those comments out. So anyway, that's going to be it for this episode of Shadow Talk, and I will see you all next time. And that's the chip truth, chummers. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more Shadowrun content. Hit that notification bell so you will always know when I upload a brand new Shadowrun video, and until next time, remember to shoot straight and never, ever deal with a dragon.